All right, hi there. We are getting ready to review for our 1.1 and 1.2 quiz. 1.1 is evaluating functions and 1.2 is function operations, literal and using the numbers. So you should have out with you while you're doing this review, I just want to show you, you should have out your notes, the learning target notes where it says learning target. We have to have the 1.1 and then also make sure you have 1.1 and then 1.2a, and we also did 1.2b, but we kept it all as a packet. So make sure you have these two things out as you're going to be referencing them on your review. Just like if you take your quiz, you're going to use your notes. So mine are off to the side here. All right, so number one, if I look at it, I can tell right away it's learning target 1.1. So I'm going to be using my notes from 1.1. And it says, for the first one, we're just evaluating the following functions. So that actually goes with our notes, example 1. So we have to just plug in this number for our x, and then we solve and we get an answer. So for this first one, we have it telling us that f of 7. So we are just going to plug this 7 in anywhere we see an x. So I get f of x. We're actually looking for f of 7, so I'm going to change that. Equals, and now I have 7 times 7 minus 3. So that is going to tell us, remember, this is kind of like our y. This just sits over here. We're finding the answer. So then I'm going to do the work on this side. So 7 times 7. So again, I get f of, that's the number it wanted it, 49. And then 7 times a negative 3 is minus 21. So then in my calculator, I'm going to type in 49 minus 21. And then I would get my final answer to be f of 7, and that equals, yep, you got it, 28. All right, let's look at number 2. Same idea. So we have here, it's telling us g of x, and it gives us the number it wants us to plug in for where we see an x. So this is g of 4, but again, this is like our y over here. We're not really doing anything with it. We're plugging in the 4 wherever we see an x on this side, and then we're using our calculator. So I get 2 times x, which is 4 squared, that's on top, and then on the bottom, 4 minus 2x, so times 4. So remember, we need to do order of operations, and we need to put this in our calculator correctly. So across the top, what we would want to do first is we would want to take this 2 times, we would want to do the exponent. So it becomes 2 times 16. 4 times 4 is 16, so it's 2 times 16 now on the top. And then the bottom, order of operations, tells me I have to do this 2 times 4 first. So it becomes 4 minus, and then 2 times 4 is 8. And then again, so now I can put this in my calculator if I want. Just remember, when you put it in your calculator, you're going to type in parentheses 2 times 16, parenthesis, and then you're going to use the divided by, and then again, you're going to use parentheses, 4 minus 8. So if you type it in exactly like that, your calculator will do the order of operations for you, and you will get the answer. That's right, you should have got g of 4, that's like our y, and then you would have also gotten the answer negative 8. So there's our final answer for that one. Again, this was our final answer for the first one. So let's take a look at number 3. Same idea. It's giving us the x value it wants us to plug in when it's h of a number and then it's h of x. So again, we're going to plug that in. H of -1, and that's just hanging over there. And then wherever we see the x, we are going to plug in -1. So this becomes 3 times -1, and I'm going to put that in parentheses just to separate it. So 3 times -1 minus, and then I have a half, times this x, which again is -1, minus 2 times x, so times, and then -1. I just put the parentheses in. These are bigger ones. That's where we'll use distributive. But when we plug this all in our calculator, if we use parentheses correctly, it will do the order of operations. We can also try to do the order of operations ourselves to make it a little bit easier. I would want to do the distributive property in parentheses first, just so we make sure we get the correct answer. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I'm going to do the parentheses first because the more I simplify it, the easier it is to put in our calculator. So in the parentheses here, I'm going to simplify, and I get -1 minus 2 times -1. So I notice in the parentheses, I got to do the times part first. And I get -2 times -1 is 2, and then I would get -1, and then that, since these become a positive, plus 2, because these two multiply together as a plus 2. That's in the parentheses still. I have my -1/2, and then my 3 times -1. That's still all just hanging out. I brought everything down. I just did what I'm doing, what's inside the parentheses first. So then again, there's still parentheses, so I need to make sure I have -1 plus 2. So I put that in my calculator and I get 1. And then outside here, that means times -1/2. I'm just rewriting it. That's a -1/2, which also means a minus sign. And then we also have the -1. I'm bringing that down in the parenthesis, and the 3 and the times. So now I'm to a point where I can actually, if I wanted to, put it in my calculator, but I'd have to use a lot of parentheses, or I will go with the order of operations. So again, I'm looking at, this is a 3 times -1, and then I also have this here, this 1/2 times 1. I can do both these sides and then get a number and then subtract it from the other number. So I'm going to do that. 3 times -1 is -3. That's this first one. Minus, and then 1/2 times 1. Well, that's just 1/2. So then in my calculator, I can actually take -3 minus 1/2, and that would give me -3 1/2. So my answer, if I wrote it, would be h of -1 equals -3.5. That was a little bit of a trickier one because we had some fractions and we had a lot going on. So I didn't make you answer that one all on your own. Now what I want you to do is try number 4 on your own as a checkpoint. And then you are going to enter that answer in after I show my work. Okay, so looking at the work, you should have had the f of -2 equals 16. The only thing you might have got tripped up on is when we insert a number into an x or x squared, it has to go in parentheses by itself, and then the exponent goes on the outside. So if you're entering it in your calculator, you would be entering in 3 times parentheses -2, and then you close the parenthesis and then square it. And then you would do the -2 times, and then again, parenthesis -2. That would come out with the answer if you did it that way and used the parentheses correctly. If you did not, if you put -2 squared without parentheses, it would have gave you the wrong number. Okay, so now let's look at number 5. We are plugging in for this one. We have a half. So a half is easy. You can put in either a half or you can use 0.5. I like to change it to a decimal just for my calculator purposes. It just makes it easier. So this would be t of a half equals, and then again, x squared. So remember, we're going to take this 0.5 in parentheses and then square it. And then we have plus our 2 times, again, 0.5, and I'm using the parenthesis just to separate so you can see that it's a 0.5. And then, so that's times again, because they're right, 2x means times, and then -1. And this is one, if you use the calculator correctly, you can plug it in to all in your calculator. So if I'm taking this, I would put parenthesis 0.5, okay, squared, you can use my squared key, plus 2 times, and then this 0.5 in your calculator, I'm just going to put parentheses around it because that's how I wrote it, but you don't necessarily need to. And then -1. So then my answer would come out as 0.25, and then again, math, enter, enter. That gives me my fraction back, because if it gives it to you as a fraction, you want the fraction answer. So f of 1/2 equals, and then again, put your answer in. Is 1/4. Okay. All right, now it's your turn again. I'm going to have you try number 6, and you are plugging in. So this is like number 2. You have to do on the top first and then on the bottom and simplify to get an answer. And remember, if we are putting it into something that's cubed or squared, you want the number in parentheses and then the cube on the outside. So let me just show you when we set this up. F of, this is going to be -2. So when I set this up, it becomes 7 minus, and then I have to do everything over here first, top and bottom. So this becomes -2, and you have to put that in parentheses to the third. And then on the bottom, it becomes 2 times 2x, which is -2. Okay. When you put this in your calculator, I would suggest first doing the parentheses. Type this part in first, divided by, and again, when you are doing fractions, I would simplify the top, get a number, simplify the bottom, get a number, and then rewrite it down here as 7 minus whatever that new fraction is. That's going to be the easiest way, or else you have to go in and you have to do lots of parentheses, meaning you're going to have to put in 7 minus, and then you're going to put in parenthesis, parenthesis, -2, parenthesis to the third, parenthesis, divided by parenthesis 2 times -2. So again, it might just be easiest to take this 7 minus and drop it down, and then take this -2 in parentheses to the third, get a new number. Take this 2 times -2, get a new number. And then take 7 minus whatever that new fraction is. That will make it a lot easier to get your answer. Okay, so when you finished all that, if you simplified, you would add -8 over -4, which is just a +2 when you divide those. So then you would have had 7 minus the +2. So your final answer is f of -2 equals the 5. All right. So that concludes this video where we are practicing our learning target of evaluating the functions when we're given the x to plug in.